Hello everyone, you're listening to The Right Side of Gaming. Today we're talking about the new Strixhaven book for D&D. Now this was announced as part of the Week of Legend lore, and the book is called Curriculum of Chaos, and I believe this is actually the cover art here. This isn't the first time that Wizards has put out a D&D setting or material based off of Magic the Gathering planes. A while back, we had a Planeshift series, which included Amonkhet, Dominaria, Innistrad, Ixalan, and Zendikar. And they were good little supplements. Each one was about 40 pages. Some were a little shorter, some were a little longer. And they contained lore, locations, backgrounds, organizations, races, monsters, all the type of stuff that you would need to sort of play in that particular setting. Curriculum of Chaos, on the other hand, looks like it's going to be a full-blown book. Planeshift series was good, it's a little bit shorter, and it's all available for free online if you decide to go look for it. Those were PDFs that Wizards put out for free. But Curriculum of Chaos is going to be a full-blown setting book that I believe is going to be released November 16th. Now, in the meantime, we have an Unearthed Arcana where we can sort of test out some of the Strixhaven stuff. In this case, we have subclasses based on the different colleges. We have Lorehold, which is our red-white college that really has a focus on history and archaeology. We have Prismari, the red-blue college that really focuses on the arts. We have Quadrix, the green-blue college that's all about math. Quill, the white-black college that really puts an emphasis on words and language. And Witherbloom, the black-green college, which really, they say it's about alchemy. I just think of 1/1 pest tokens. Now, whenever we're looking through at the powers and abilities associated with each subclass, they're marked down as 1+, 6+, 10+, and 14+. That's because not every class gets things at the same level. So it's just indicating what level you have to be to obtain that particular ability. Now, these subclasses are meant to replace something in each class. So for Bard, this subclass is what you're choosing for your Bardic College. Druids, it's your Druidic Circle. Sorcerer, it's your Sorcerer's Origin. Warlocks, this is your otherworldly patron. And for Wizards, it's their Arcane Tradition. Now you'll notice not all of them get powers at the exact same levels, and they don't necessarily match that 1, 6, 10, 14 that the subclasses put out. Wizards, Warlocks, and Druids aren't going to have any issues. They all get their first ability or power or whatever within the first couple levels. Then they hit that 6, 10, and 14 mark. Sorcerers and Bards, on the other hand, are going to have to make some choices. Bards and Sorcerers both get their first 2 powers normally, but then it gets a little bit different higher up. Bards will actually have to make a choice at level 14 if they want their level 10 ability or their level 14, because at level 14 they could choose either one, but they're only going to get one of the 2. Sorcerer, on the other hand, gets to choose either one at level 14, and then whichever one they don't choose, they will get access to at level 18. So they could, in theory, get them in the reverse order, but they're still going to get all of them. Bards are just going to get 3 of the 4. And I'll make a point of reminding you when we get to the Lorehold and Silverquill powers for the Bard, as well as the Quadrix and Prismari for the Sorcerer. Now you can absolutely go through and read through these all for yourself. I will at least do my best to summarize everything available. For Lorehold, at level 1 they get Lorehold Spells, which, if you're familiar with most of the subclasses and options, you know exactly how this works as far as knowing and having spells prepared and using spell slots and all that. This is all standard fare. They're going to get Comprehend Languages and Sacred Flame, which honestly, the more I think about it, actually fits Lorehold. Sacred Flame, I think Fire. I think Clerics, which is exactly red and white. Comprehend Languages is really good for sort of your archaeologist archetype that they're going for. And then you can see all the spells that they'll get access to as they level up. They're also going to get an Ancient Companion. It's a statue that essentially has a spirit inside of it. And whenever you get the companion, you get to choose between healer, sage, or warrior, which is going to determine some of the traits of your companion. It's going to use your initiative in combat and move after you, and it just dodges unless you use a bonus action to tell it to do something else. And you can spend a spell slot to have it regain HP. Now, if you choose warrior, it's going to get a bonus to armor class, and it's going to get a reaction ability to grant a bonus on strength and dex saves. If you choose sage, it's going to give a bonus to you and your allies to intelligence and wisdom checks. And if you choose healer, it's going to get an ability to grant temporary HP. The level 6+ power is Lessons of the Past, which is going to grant bonuses to your ancient companion based on the type you chose. If you chose healer, you're going to get an increase in your max HP, and you're going to regain an extra 1d8 from spells. If you chose sage, you're going to get advantage on arcana, history, nature, and religion checks. And once per turn, you're going to deal an extra 1d8 force damage to a creature whenever you cast a spell of first level or higher, so basically your non-cantrips. And if you chose warrior, if you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can also make a weapon attack, which will deal an extra 1d8. And of course, if your companion dies, or is destroyed or whatever, and you bond with a new companion of a different type, you lose the old benefits and gain whatever the new ones are. Next, we have the level 10 feature, War Echoes. Once per turn, when a creature you see hits a target with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force the target to make a wisdom save, and if they fail, it becomes vulnerable to one of the damage types dealt by the attack until the end of your next turn, and that does affect the damage by the triggering attack. So whatever attack triggers it, they'll take extra damage. And then you can use that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. That's going to be a recurring theme. I think they've decided that worked out really well in previous Unearthed Arcanas, and I think they're just going to keep going forward with that. Finally, we have History's Whims, the level 14+ feature. It says, as a bonus action, you enter a state of chronal chaos, which I believe would be like time chaos, which I guess is flavorful for an archaeologist type of class. Whenever you enter, and at the start of each of your subsequent turns, you gain a benefit of your choice, although you can't choose the same one twice in a row. You have luck. It's whenever you make a saving throw on an effect that deals damage, you can add a d6. Resistance, you resist bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. And swiftness, you increase your movement speed by 15 feet and don't provoke attacks of opportunity. It lasts 1 minute or until you're incapacitated, and you can only use it once per long rest unless you expend a spell slot of 4th level or higher to regain it. So if you're a bard, you're going to have to choose between the level 10 and the level 14 powers if you get high enough up there. One is basically really offensive because you're just going to have them take extra damage from vulnerabilities. The other one, I think, has a little bit more utility to it because you can give out some saving throw bonuses, you can reduce some damage, you can move around a little bit better. But the level 10 is definitely more offensive compared to the level 14 utility. So you're just going to have to pick whatever you think fits your character better. For Prismari, you start off with creative skills and gain proficiency in 2 of your choice out of acrobatics, athletics, nature, or performance, which, considering they are sort of these elemental artists, I think those all fit. You also gain kinetic artistry. Now, if you're not familiar with the dash action, that's basically just your double move, and it gives you the ability to dash as a bonus action a number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus, which, again, that's pretty standard now. And when you do dash as a bonus action, you're going to get a bonus based off of the elemental type you choose. You can do a Boreal Sweep, which would be ice. You can move across water as if it were solid ground. And when you leave a space within 5 feet of a creature, you can force it to make a strength save or be knocked prone. Scorching Whirl, that's your fire. Once before the end of your turn, you can force each creature within 5 feet of you to make a dex save or take some fire damage. And then Thunderlight Jaunt, which is going to be our electric option. It allows you to move through spaces of other creatures, and you don't provoke attacks of opportunity. And then if you end your turn inside of a creature space, you're just pushed into the nearest unoccupied space. The level 6+ option is Favored Medium. You gain resistance to cold, fire, or lightning whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that deals damage of the chosen type. You gain a 5-foot aura in every direction that lasts until the end of your next turn. And while active, each creature of your choice has resistance to your chosen damage type while within the aura, and you can change that choice after a long rest. I just see this as an excuse to make it easier to cast Fireball on everything, including my party mates. I'm sure someone else will find a much nicer use for it, though. The level 10+ option for Prismari is Focused Expression, which is going to be based off of your Favored Medium, your level 6+ ability. So once per turn, when you deal damage to at least one target, you gain an additional effect based on your Favored Medium. It's going to deal plus 1d6 of whatever damage type you chose, and then if it's cold, they're going to make a con save or have their speed reduced by 10 feet, and they can only be affected by that once per round. If you chose fire, a creature of your choice within 30 feet of you gains 1d6 temporary hit points, because they're sort of surrounded by a wall of fire type of deal. And then if you chose lightning, the target has to make a dex save or be unable to take reactions until the end of its next turn. Finally, at the 14+ level, they get impeccable physicality. They gain proficiency in dexterity saves, and when you make a dex save, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or less as a 10, which I guess in theory would get rid of those critical fails if you guys are playing with those. And again, if you're playing a sorcerer, you get to choose which order you'll get the 10 and 14 abilities from. Level 10 ability is definitely very offensive. The 14+ a little bit more defensive, but I can see how that'd come in handy if you were, say, playing a campaign where you're attacking a bunch of dragons or something and you're constantly making dex saves. But again, it'll be up to you to choose whatever fits your character better at that point in time. Moving on to Quadrix, at first level, you get your spell list again, along with Guidance and Guiding Bolt, which I guess the idea there is increasing probability. And then you also get Functions of Probability. Whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that targets at least one creature, you can choose that or another creature within 30 feet, including yourself, and add one of the following effects. So you have a positive effect and a negative effect you can give to either an enemy or you or one of your allies. You can do Diminishing Function, which means they make a Wisdom save or subtract a d6 from their next attack roll before the start of your next turn. Or Supplemental Function, where they're going to just straight up add a d6 to an attack or saving throw of their choice before the start of your next turn. The level 6+ option for Quadrix is Velocity Shift. And it states that whenever a creature you can see starts its turn or moves within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction and force them to make a Charisma save or be teleported 30 feet to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see. And you get to use that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. The 10 plus option is Null Equation. Once per turn, after dealing damage to a creature, you can force them to make a con save or have disadvantage on strength and dex saves and have their weapon attacks deal half damage until the start of your next turn. And again, that's going to be available a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. Finally, the 14 plus option is Quantum Tunneling. You're going to gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and can move through other creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take 1d10 force damage for every 5 feet while you move inside. If you end your turn inside of something, you're again pushed to the nearest unoccupied space, and this time it's that you last occupied. So you get a little bit of that Prismari movement thing going, although this one, on the one hand, it lets you move through objects too, but on the other hand, it can deal some damage to you. And again, if you're a sorcerer, you're going to have to choose between Null Equation and Quantum Tunneling at level 14, and then at level 18 you would get whichever one you didn't choose. Null Equation, it's definitely, I guess, a little bit more defensive. You're making your enemies weaker, whereas with Quantum Tunneling, it's not so much offensive or defensive, it's more of a get out of jail free card because you're just trying to get away or possibly just trying to move through things. If you're playing one of the sneakier type of characters, I can see where that might be fun. You can take a little damage, but you're just going to walk straight through the wall. Next, we have Silver Quill, which is my absolute favorite in the card game because I play black-white and everything, and it's typically black-white life gain, but you do what you can. In this case, you're going to get Eloquent Apprentice, which is going to give you either Sacred Flame or Vicious Mockery, depending on if you want to play more of the white or the black angle here, as well as proficiency in 2 skills of your choice out of Deception, Intimidation, Performance, Persuasion, or Insight, because you got to be able to be good with your words. You're also going to get Silvery Barbs. After a creature you see within 60 feet of you succeeds on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can use your reaction. So unless the creature is immune to being charmed, it re-rolls the d20 and must use the lower roll. And of course that's regardless of if it had advantage or disadvantage. It still has to re-roll whatever the eventual thing was and use the lower roll. And if it fails, you can choose a different creature you can see within 60 feet of you, including yourself, who can re-roll 1 attack, ability check, or save it makes within 1 minute and use the higher result. So think of this as sort of a super disadvantage and super advantage because it would stack on top of the regular kind. And once a creature fails an attack, check, or save by a reroll from this feature, you can't use it again after a long rest. So if you use it on an enemy and they still make their attack, save, whatever, you can still use it again. It's just once it does fail, that's it. You've used it. You finally said something horrible. The level 6 option is Inky Shroud. You learn Darkness as a class spell. You can cast without spending a spell slot once per long rest. A lot of that is pretty standard stuff. But when you cast it that way, you can see normally through the darkness created, and when a creature you can see starts its turn in the darkness, you can deal 2d10 psychic damage to that creature. At level 10, you get Infusion of Eloquence. When you cast a spell that deals damage, you can change the damage type to Psychic or Radiant. Any creature damaged by the spell takes extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. You gain an additional effect until the start of your next turn. Either the target is frightened for Psychic or charmed for Radiant. And you can do that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Finally, you get Word of Power, which is different from Power Word whatever, like Power Word Kill. You gain Deadly Despair. When the target of Silvery Barbs fails an attack, check, or save because of your reroll, you can give the target vulnerability to one damage type of your choice until the start of your next turn. And Selfless Invocation. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you takes damage, you grant resistance to that damage, and you take psychic damage equal to the damage that the creature takes. So basically, you're splitting their damage in half, and you're taking the other half, if that makes sense. I think in that particular instance, they do a really good job of sort of playing up the white versus black angle there. You have something that sounds really selfless, something that sounds really not. And again, if you are a bard, you have to make a choice between the level 10 feature and the level 14. You're either going to get that extra damage, the level 10 power, or you're going to get the sort of vulnerability and damage interception from the level 14. Finally, we have the Witherbloom subclass, which does not make a single pest in here anywhere, and I am horribly disappointed, but it does do some alchemy, which I have a soft spot for right now, because I made a couple of random characters from that anime 5e thing I did a couple days ago. One of them was an alchemist. I like crafting things, so being able to make alchemical potions and whatnot, I can work with this. This will be fun. I actually like it. You get your Witherbloom spells, which gives you Spare the Dying, as well as Cure Wounds and Inflict Wounds, so you get to do that choice between dealing or healing damage. Then again, you get your list of class spells as you level up. And you also get Essence Tap. So as a bonus action, you get one of the benefits for 1 minute. Either be Overgrowth, whenever you choose that benefit, and as a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can expend and roll a hit die to regain HP equal to the number you rolled plus your spellcasting ability modifier. So it's a way to make your hit die a little bit more effective, and you don't necessarily have to be out of combat to use them. Or you can choose Withering Strike. When you deal damage, you can change the damage type to Necrotic and ignore Necrotic resistance. So it's a good way to get around damage resistances that might be giving you trouble. And again, you can use that feature a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. The level 6+ feature is Witherbloom Brew. You gain proficiency with herbalism kits if you don't already have it, because those are going to be important for this. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can use that herbalism kit and a pot or cauldron to create magical brews. So you're going to go full on, witch with a magic pot type of thing. You can create a number of brews equal to your proficiency bonus, each requiring its own flask. So right now you're up to herbalism kit, pot or cauldron, and probably multiple flasks. And the brews last for 24 hours or until used. So for each brew, you get to choose one of these. And I think it's whenever you're actually making them, not when you use it. So you have to plan ahead a little bit. You can make a Fortifying Brew, which will give a resistance for 1 hour to either cold, fire, necrotic, poison, or radiant damage. And you choose that damage type when you create it. You can choose Quickening, which will have you heal for 2d6 hit points. And you can end one disease or condition from the following list, and the user gets to choose which one actually that gets ended. You don't have to plan on someone being poisoned or something. But you can make the choice from Charmed, Frightened, Paralyzed, Poisoned, and Stunned. And then finally, you can make a Toxifying Brew, which can be applied to a simple or martial weapon. The next time the weapon or ammo hits a creature within 1 hour, the target takes 2d6 poison and must make a con save or be poisoned for 1 minute. The level 10 feature is Witherbloom of Depth. Once per turn, when you deal necrotic damage or restore hit points using a spell, one target of the spell is going to take additional damage or gain additional HP equal to your proficiency bonus. That really plays into the damaging and healing bit that you got in the card game. It's like, oh, you're going to lose some health, I'm going to gain some health. Well, in this case, it's either going to be I'm going to deal more damage, or I'm going to heal more health, which I like. I think that's still kind of flavorful. Finally, we have their level 14 plus Withering Vortex. Whenever you cast a spell using a spell slot that deals necrotic damage to any number of creatures that aren't undead or construct, so I know that's limiting things a bit. It doesn't count cantrips, doesn't count spells you cast without using a slot. It has to be one that deals necrotic damage and doesn't trigger on undead or constructs. But if you get all of that, you choose one of the creatures that took damage and one creature other than yourself that you can see within 30 feet of you. The creature you chose within 30 feet of you is going to regain HP equal to half the damage done to the damaged creature. So you're stealing health from one thing and giving it to somebody else, which again, very flavorful to match to the card game. And you can do that a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. Honestly, I think these are some pretty flavorful options. I think they did a good job of sort of keeping the feel of the actual card game colleges. And I know a lot of people are going to be really excited to play a Strixhaven style game. I know a lot of people from my generation grew up watching and reading Harry Potter. And while they may not necessarily feel the same way about the franchise now or the author, I think a lot of people really enjoyed those. They really liked the flavor. It really got into the whole magic school thing. People were all over it. And I know there were other magic school products, stuff, before and after. But that's just like the major one that comes to mind. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people really enjoyed Strixhaven. So I think this is going to be a really fun one to play around with. I think a lot of people are going to be excited for it, and I really cannot wait to see what all they put into it. I'm also calling it now. If Wizards doesn't include school teacher Liliana, I'm pretty sure the players will find a way to add that in themselves. And that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to leave a like, comment, subscribe, that'd be great. Maybe tell me a little bit about what college you feel you fit into. I know I'm a big fan of Silver Quill, just because I like the colors in Magic. I do like the flavor they gave it. I do also like the outfits. Kind of the same with Witherbloom. Let me be one of those either emo or goth kids, depending on which ones it shows. It was a phase in high school, don't judge me. But if you guys want to tell me which ones you guys really identify with, have at it. I would enjoy reading that. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. I understand. Either way, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will catch you next time.